This is explicit genocidal rhetoric. This is openly identifying a group of human beings that, for whatever reason, Michael Knowles does not see as equal in their humanity to him, and is perfectly comfortable with the death and the erasure of that group of people. Yeah, we're going like right into it. All right, let's do this. I need to get a bigger. Maybe I need to start bringing the big one. Yeah, maybe I do. Bring a bigger thing of water, because golly, talking all this much. Okay. Michael Knowles, Christian fundamentalist? Yeah, I think that's fair. Christian fundamentalist, right-wing conservative news caster, podcaster, whatever the fuck, Daily Wire employee, content creator, all the rest of that stuff. Apparently went on his program and was being a bit pro-genocide. So let's go see if am I lying or am I not lying? Let's find out.
rabbitair.com to speak to a Rabbit Air consultant. That's RABBITAIR.com. Do not forget to check out their artist series and special editions for a more aesthetically pleasing product design.
Let's go.
Make sure to tell them that Michael Knowles sent you.
Come on, I know
this
it starts
transgender
soon.
issue. It's all anybody wants to talk about. In fact,
true.
I got in trouble for this issue yesterday. I, your beloved host, whom everybody loves so, I got in trouble.
There's a link down at the bottom or something, and it's detransitioner sues doctors in Spain.
For this issue, it was my publicists over at Media Matters. They were working overtime yesterday, publishing multiple articles about the allegedly egregious things I was saying on this show,
yes.
which I always encourage. I just retweet them when they put those articles out, because those articles and videos tend to be the highlights from my show. So I thank them for going through, clipping it out, making it look really nice, and then they put it out into the world.
I need to get an editor.
The big issue that they had yesterday, which was then picked up in other media outlets as well, is that I called to ban transgenderism entirely. I made the point that if you want women to have their own bathrooms, if you think women ought to be able to have their own locker rooms and not have to look at gigantic, gross men while little girls are getting changed, if you want...
It's a bit odd. Okay. Secondly, do I need to say it? Do I need to say okay, cool, Michael, then what is a woman? What are the, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, cool, what is a woman and who gets to use the bathrooms? Is a woman somebody who can have children? Oh, so do we need bathrooms for females who can have children and females who can't have children? Like, come on, I don't need to do this.
Want any of those things?
We already know this is ridiculous.
You have to ban transgenderism entirely. It's not enough to say, well, you have to wait until you're 12 or whatever people are saying now. It has to be the whole thing, because if men have the right to behave as women and identify as women for the purposes of public life, then women can't have their own spaces. And we as a society cannot.
Can men have their own? But men can still have their own spaces, right? Right? Like, that's right. I notice there's always like this really like weird obsession for like women. It's always like think of the children, think of the women. It's always that sort of thing. But still, like,
not have our own standards and norms, and we're not allowed to live according to reality. We have to live according to the delusions of these troubled people. And I think we the people have a right to reality. And I think women have a right to their own spaces. And so that means you got to ban the thing entirely. And oh my goodness, what these people say.
So I understand. Let's understand this, because Michael is not mincing words here. Ban all transgender people from the country. Meaning you're trans, if you're trans, which regardless of whether you believe that trans people are legitimate, whether you think that trans people are moral, any of these things, they exist. Regardless of all of these things, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, doesn't matter. None of those things matter. The only thing that actually matters here is this group of people exist in our country right now, and he is arguing for the banning of their existence. Let's get that clear. Is that genocide? Yeah. Because the question becomes, okay, cool. So what do those people, what do we do with those folks? Do they, if you're trans right now, do you never get to use a women's restroom? Do you never get to use public facilities? Do you get to do you get to adopt children? Do you get to, what can you not participate in society if you're trans under a transgender ban? And then the question needs to be, how is this any different? How is this any different from the genocide, the targeting and elimination of a group? Those are very basic questions.
I said that I was calling for the extermination of transgender people.
Well, yeah, if you ban them.
They said I was calling for a genocide against. Yep. I said, what? I must have missed that part of my show. When did I say that?
This is another one of those things where our boy Charlie doesn't quite take the extra step to understand the rhetoric. He says, I want to ban all trans people. Leftists, probably, in Media Matters most likely, said, yeah, he's calling for a genocide. Yeah, he's just calling for a genocide. To which he goes, I never said the word genocide. But what does ban mean? Tell me the difference between a ban and a genocide. Go ahead. I'd be free to hear it.
I don't know how you could have a genocide of transgender people.
Right.
Because genocide refers to genes. It refers to genetics.
Really? Is that right, Michael Knowles? One moment, please. Where is the Google machine? Wait, I could totally wait, I could do this. No, I don't want to give you my microphone, actually. Just kidding. Sorry, Google thing. Never mind, I don't want to do that. The deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. It's not really very difficult. Now, is it? Now, you can say oh, well, are trans people, yeah, let's see, people from a particular nation, are trans people a part of, are from a nation or of an ethnic group? No, but let's be honest here. This is a group of people that exist across pretty much all ethnicities, considering they're a identity. The reason why, we can play games with that's not technically the definition of genocide. It doesn't really matter. Also, if I remember correctly, the UN legal definition is actually to constitute genocide, it must be a proven intent on the part of perpetrators to physically destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Cultural destruction does not suffice, nor does the intention of simply disperse a group. Yeah. Which again, that's how we're drawing the line, is between the UN draws the line of national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. But again, I mean, first of all, don't these people already think woke ideology is a religion? But either way, this fits perfectly within the purview of what genocide is, what the act of genociding a group is. We can talk about the semantics about word choice. I don't really care. If you'd like massacre, we can also pick massacre. That's if you really want a good enough word, if you really want to be more accurate, then we can just use massacre. But I think when we say genocide, there's a reason why you pick that, and it's mainly because you want to draw a distinction and draw a similarity to the genocide of the Jews in Holocaust Germany. That's why you would use that. It's just a way to frame it in a way that everybody understands what we're talking about. So again, you can play the semantic games, Michael, but let's be honest here. You're not arguing for anything different than what the Nazis did. You're also doing the thing that you're also doing the thing that the Nazis did, where you dehumanize a group.
Did I say that? I don't know how you could have a genocide of transgender people, because genocide refers to genes.
It doesn't refer to genes.
To genetics.
No, it does not.
It refers to biology.
It does not.
And the whole point of transgenderism is that it has nothing to do with biology. That's what the transgender activists say. They say, forget about biological sex.
That's even better. Like, we looked at the definition. The definition has nothing to do with genes or biology.
Expression doesn't have
everything
to have
to do with
anything
social
to do
groups.
with my biological sex. Okay, well then there can't be a genocide.
Because you can't be a national, like, you can't be like, you're not a nationality. Like, nobody is a nationality. Nations don't exist in nature. So, like, even ethnic groups isn't really something that I, like, at the end of the day, those are usually more socially constructed, no? So, like, yeah, we're not talking about genes, like, you fucking idiot.
That refers to genetics. But furthermore, nobody's calling to exterminate anybody.
But let's be honest,
because the other problem,
it's mainly because the word gen is in it, so
is that
he's going with root words.
Transgender people is not a real ontological category.
Oh,
it's not a legitimate category of being.
Oh, do I need to say it? You know, I mentioned the Nazis earlier, and like that's kind of a that's a low-hanging fruit, but like, yeah, go back for a second. No, seriously, like,
statement is that transgender people is not a real ontological category. It's not a legitimate category of being. There are people who think that they're the wrong sex, but they're mistaken. They're laboring under it. And so we need to correct that.
I am so curious what they're bleeping out.
People said, well, what does it mean to ban transgenderism entirely? Well, it means that we return to the way that Americans.
Sorry, I'm like actually curious what the fuck they had to bleep out there. Like, I know it's like, yeah, I'm trying to think.
They're mistaken. They're laboring under it. With my biological sex. Okay, well then there can't be a genocide. That refers to genetics. But furthermore, nobody's calling to exterminate anybody, because the other problem with that statement is that transgender people is not a real.
So let me get this straight. We're going with the argument that you can't, and you can't genocide, you can't massacre a group of trans people because trans people don't exist. Meaning when you murder those people, never happened. They didn't exist to begin with. That person who was trans, who changed their name, changed their identity, that identity doesn't exist to Michael Knowles. This is, without a doubt, and this is explicit genocidal rhetoric. This is openly identifying a group of human beings that, for whatever reason, Michael Knowles does not see as equal in their humanity to him, and is perfectly comfortable with the death and the erasure of that group of people. He might not have said genocide, he might not have said killed, he might not have said massacre, but what he is advocating for are each one of those things. Every single one of those things. I don't really have another way of saying this. But as somebody who grew up Catholic, attended Catholic school, let me say this, and let me say this very directly. In case there's any possible chance that he would hear this, to which my message is, Michael, you are a hateful and godless person on this planet, and know that none of your moral prescriptions, none of your moral hangups, none of your moral arguments hold anywhere near the weight of your hateful rhetoric. Understand that every single time you go out on your platform and you do your Bible thumping, you do your Jesus loving, understand that all of this is in the pursuit of justifying your hate. And I'm confident in saying that if Jesus were here, he would not find favor in what you participate in. This is not loving thy neighbor. This is not turning the other cheek. This is not any of the teachings of Christ. Let me be clear, before I even continue with the rest of this video, you're a piece of shit and God hates you. Let's continue.
Ontological category. It's not a legitimate category of being. There are people who think that they're the wrong sex, but they're mistaken. They're laboring under it. And so we need to correct that. People said, well, what does it mean to ban transgenderism entirely? Well, it means that we return to the way that American society operated until approximately 5 minutes ago, when we said that men do not have a right to present themselves as women in public life.
And why is that? Here's the underlying question, because that's his problem, is why should men be able to present themselves as women? The real question, the question at the heart of this is, why not? What is the harm? What's the danger? You can talk about perceived danger that women like J.K. Rowling might hold, but that's not really, perception is not reality, as we're all aware of, right? So the question becomes, what's the harm? I have long hair. I'm sure if I put on enough makeup and, did this or that, I could present as a woman. What's the harm? What's the material damage being done? There is none. Nobody's being hurt. Nobody's being injured. Nobody's being assaulted. Nothing. It's just, it grosses him out. He finds it to be icky. He doesn't like it. And he's built this entire movement, and every single day he gets on his show, puts on his Sunday church outfit, but then decides to loosen it up and lose the tie to present this reasonable, this knowledgeable, this righteous, this good man who just wants people to be protected. But the only way to protect people is to exterminate, is to actively disregard and erase certain people. Society can only thrive if certain people are not part of it. Keep that in mind.
Women don't have a right to present themselves as men in public life. You have some limits on that. We have all sorts of limits on our speech and behavior. If I wanted to right now, if the spirit moved me and I wanted to go streaking naked through the streets of Nashville, I would not be allowed to do that. That would be against the law. It might be my...
Yeah, because out in the public square, we've determined that you're not supposed to be naked there, man or woman. These are like, the public space is a place where we've decided that, hey, the thing you use to go to the bathroom and to like get your wife pregnant, you can't be swinging that thing around the local fucking park or whatever. That's not what this is for. Whereas a bathroom is where people go to the bathroom. This isn't complicated.
Expression, but I don't have a right to that kind of free expression. There are all sorts of words that I might want to yell and scream and say that I'm not allowed to yell and scream and say.
I bet the
N-word.
the
mores and standards and norms in our culture,
right?
But also because of the law. And transgenderism,
Well,
ultimately,
it really depends in terms of the law. You're allowed to yell fuck as much as you want, but there is a certain level in which, like, if enough people complain, that you're being a bit of a a disturbance of the peace, so, like, but it's not that you yelled fuck. Even if you just yelled banana over and over and loud enough and bothered enough people with yelling that, then the cops would also talk to you about that.
is a lie. It's a deception. It's a fraud.
Also, all these things he's talking about
Fraud
are socially
is not
constructed
protected by the First Amendment. Fraud is not a category protected by the principles of free speech. You have no right to fraud. So if you're a man and you dress up like a woman and you rename yourself Sally, you have no right to go to the gym and go into the women's locker room and say, no, I'm really a woman. That's a fraud. And you have no right to that. So banning transgenderism, what that would mean is telling people
what would
who
it
are a
mean?
little confused that they need to get, that they probably need to get a little bit of,
I'm really curious as to what they had to bleep out.
and they need to be normal.
Ah, yes. Normal. The thing that we all know exactly what that is. To which the question always belies, what is normal? What do you think Michael Knowles' normal is? And is that your normal? Is that my normal? Is that my neighbor's normal? What is normal? Is normal wearing this suit with this shirt? Is normal wearing the t-shirt I'm wearing? Is normal not wearing headphones, or is it wearing headphones? Is normal walking around wearing having AirPods in your ears? Is it not doing that? Is normal using a phone, like a smartphone, or is normal not using a smartphone, instead using like one of the older, like, dumb phones or whatever the fuck? Like, what is normal is constantly moving and being reshaped by societal norms and societal acceptability. Like, there isn't a static normal. Normal is always changing. Now, to Michael, this is a terrifying idea. That the idea that normal isn't static, the idea that normal could be any number of things. Some of them might be things he is, and some of them are things he's not. But, like, it's not real. Normal isn't a real thing that stays in the ground that we use to measure. It's not real. It's not a thing in nature. Normal is what we decide it to be. And society, and this is why he's going this far. Let's be clear. He's going this far because he realizes that normal has outpaced him, that he is no longer in the normal category, that he is now a fucking freak. That is what Michael Knowles is. Michael Knowles is a small, ignorant little freak. And, to him, that's hurt. That hurts. That hurts, dog. Don't ask him. That hurts deep down. Because he thinks he's normal. He thinks he's like everybody else. But he's not. Dude, you're way more hateful than most people. You're way more concerned with everybody else's personal life. You're way more concerned with everybody else's identity, how they would like to go about their lives. You're so concerned with everybody else. Trust me, my guy, you ain't normal. You're a bit nosy and arrogant.
Be normal. That's I think that's my main political message these days. How far right-wing is that? It's so extremist, isn't it? No, it's the most moderate position you can have. Be normal, okay? Society has a right to standards and norms.
You're right, and society has already decided that the standards and norms that it affirms are not yours. Michael, you're not in the center. You're not normal. You're a fucking freak. I'm sorry.
And people don't have a right to just do whatever they want all the time. If you are a man, you have an obligation to behave basically like a man. And if you're a woman, you have an obligation to behave basically like a woman.
That is true. That also has nothing to do with how you're born. You could be born a female and still be a man, if that's the gender identity that you identify with. It's not really...
And I'm not saying there aren't tomboys, and I'm not saying there aren't foppish men, but you do not have a right to
Are they normal? Is that normal?
Your personality or your gender expression in any way that you want.
Remember,
That's
this is
what
the
banning
freedom guy.
transgenderism looks like.
This is the
And
freedom
by the
guy.
way, that's how our society operated for pretty much all of its history.
You mean so just the United States, the last 300 years? Which, by the way, like, let's remember, he says our society, that's how we've operated as a society here in the United States for all of our creation. Yeah? This country's not that old, my guy. I don't know if you've heard, but, like, this isn't a very old country. The argument you're making is utterly asinine. Yeah, no shit. Like, society has started, like, there weren't as many, or certainly not as many openly trans people back in 1776. But you couldn't possibly make the argument that they never existed before then. And even if so, 300 years of history, do you know how long humans have been around for, you idiot? Thousands of years. But yet, you know, it's always the history only started when I paid attention to it. Whenever I, Michael Knowles, wants to start history, that's when it begins.
All the way down to cross-dressing laws. There were laws against men wearing dresses in public in many places around this country, including San Francisco.
And then we
That's
progressed.
Normal. Okay, and it didn't violate the First Amendment, and it didn't violate religious expression.
Really, it doesn't? Really? I don't have a right to wear a garment of clothing? That's not freedom of speech? Well, technically, it's not freedom of speech. It's freedom to, like, buy stuff. But, like, yeah, like, why shouldn't I be able to wear a dress or any other women's clothing? Why is that? Why can't I do that? I'd love, like, what's, again, like, how do I not have that right? If you have a right to buy fucking fedoras, I don't know what this guy fucking wears, but if you have a right to buy a fedora, why don't I have a right to buy some high heels? They're just articles of clothing. They are gendered, but by no means are they exclusive to those genders. Same way, like, what, women can't wear fucking sneakers now? Women can't wear t-shirts? Women can't wear tank tops? What can women not wear now all of a sudden? And is that freedom? Is that freedom?
Actually just upheld reality. And it forced people to bring their vision of the world a little more closely in line with reality.
To conform, yes.
But these days, if you suggest anything of the kind, you're called a fascist, an extremist, and a genocidal maniac murderer. And the reason they do that,
I'm really glad he says that.
If they call you any of those things, a Nazi, a fascist, a murderer,
right,
you're calling for genocide, it allows them to justify violence against you and death threats and all the rest of it. So there was one person, one of the guys at Media Matters, who goes by Ari Denner. I don't think that's his real name, but anyway, that's what he goes by. He was going overtime about this, and I thought, he's obviously a very confused fellow. And I have a great affection for many of the people at Media Matters, especially my chief publicist, Jason Campbell. And so I thought, in the spirit of open dialogue, if Mr. Denner wants to come on the show and debate the issue, Media Matters spend so much time watching my show, they can certainly come on if they like. We could do a long interview. It could be 2 hours. You know, the way I conduct these things, it's not gotchas. It's not little tiny clips here and there, and we delete the rest of the interview. Put the whole thing up. I would be more than happy to do that. So Media Matters.
Well, it doesn't matter if you put the whole clip up. Not everyone's going to watch that. They'll watch the clips.
I get in contact with my producers. I'm sure that they have the contact info. Meanwhile, the rest.
It's funny because you know that he, like, Michael Knowles is the type of, like, fucking, like, troglodyte who actually thinks they could, like, survive, like, a debate with somebody. Because even though, like, nothing he ever says, like, we're done with this, but nothing he ever says he can substantiate. He just kind of says the thing he believes and just says it a couple times and then is like, that's normal. And, like, it's like that's not an argument. Okay. Like, did you have more to that? And he goes, oh no, it's just normal, you know? And it's like, what the fuck is this? Like, this fucking idiot just gets on here and doesn't have any arguments, doesn't have any prescription, doesn't have anything in the way of actually being able to substantiate any of his dipshit, dumbass, brain dead fucking views. But, you know, he just, like, kind of says it strongly. And quite frankly, that's enough for his audience, which is a bit depressing, but when that's all you watch, then strong rhetoricians will catch your eye, will garner your attention. But at the end of the day, let's get this clear. Like, Michael Knowles is very stupid, but Michael Knowles is good at basically feigning intelligence, feigning nuance, feigning like depth. And for that, I can give him one clap. The rest of it, unfortunately, is rather boilerplate, empty, shallow rhetoric that is just based on stuff like be normal and align your values with most people. Even though if you asked him to define what most people are, I'm sure he'd say some right-wing conception to which he knows well enough, hopefully, I don't know, maybe he doesn't. But his conservative, theocratic, like fascist views are not the center, are not what we would ever describe as normal. But keep saying it, Michael. Keep saying it. Keep telling yourself that you're normal. Fucking freak, man. I swear to fucking God. You know the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.